Good day to the youth of South Africa. This is our youth month and your youth month as well. Those of you that are aspiring to join the engineering profession, welcome to the Young Engineering Professionals Roundtable Hot Discussion. This is under the theme Engaging and Attracting Young Professionals, Building the Engineering Profession, in which ways ECSA seeks to delve into the minds of young aspiring and professional engineering technicians, engineering technologists, and engineers by inviting them to share their experiences and roles in the profession, as well as to highlight the route to an importance of profession with regard to registration with ECSA. So I'm going to give you the time to introduce yourselves.
I'm Malcolm Lowe. I'm an EIT at Joburg Water, as well as a master's student at the University of Johannesburg.
Megan Brank, and I'm currently a PhD student at the University of Pretoria.
My name is Yanko Panda. I'm a civil engineer, professionally registered. I'm currently working as a project manager for Telcon, and I am the Woman of Stature, Women in Engineering winner for 2022.
Wow, wonderful. Okay, I'm the senior in the room at the table. I've registered with ECSA in February 2004. So I'm going to give it to you now that I'm just facilitating the session and want to hear the challenges that you as the youth are having and the aspiring people who would like to register with ECSA, like Yanko did, to hear her journey as well. So let's first maybe start with the current student in terms of why engineering, why not other discipline, and the challenges that maybe might be there in front.
I think for me it has been something that I always wanted to do. Normally I think a 6-year-old would say they want to become a policeman or a doctor, but it's always been designing structures and bridges. So that is the route that I chose, and I'm still on that same path. So for me, I'm happy. I'm happy where I'm at the moment. And challenges that I faced during my studies, I think the biggest challenge is yourself. You need self-discipline. You need to study hard, keep your head down, and that's the only way you will get through it.
Okay. But Megan, I missed something. What inspired you to choose the career in engineering? There must have been something that inspired you.
My dad is a builder, so he builds houses.
Oh, okay.
And I was playing on sites as a little girl, running through the dirt and making mud balls and stuff. So I think it came from that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
But now, this question, I think, let me take it to Malcolm, who has recently graduated, who is now just in the industry. Now, from what Megan said in terms of the aspiration, is there a future for the youth in South Africa in engineering?
Yes, I do believe so. I think within engineering, it allows you to create a large impact on a community. So the more engineers we have, the bigger impact the industry can create for the community itself. So let's say like a civil engineering profession allows you to create dams that provide water for thousands of people. And that creates a community for jobs as well as the human rights of water.
Okay, I hear you, Malcolm. You've gone further, but for the youth now to be aspire to study engineering, why I'm saying that there are entrepreneurs as well with matric who are not aspiring to study engineering. Is there that thing, I don't know what to call it, but that thing that you can say there's future and then we can look forward to. What you said is what an engineer, an engineering technologist or an engineering technician will do. But are the youth inspired to still study engineering? I'm linking out what Megan said, what inspired, because Megan hasn't passed that stage of getting into the workplace. But from your side now, being in the workplace, are you inspired, seeing what is happening around?
I see in the industry that the engineers aren't really rewarded like they used to be. So people getting registered like yourself aren't rewarded as much as the industry used to reward professionals. So it's difficult to say that the inspiration will still follow that. But I do see by creating an environment that the young could be inspired by STEM, it can allow them to create their own passion within the industry itself.
Okay. By STEM you mean, just maybe it's an abbreviation, others might not understand what is STEM.
It's science, technology, engineering and math.
Ah, wonderful.
Yes.
Okay, now let's take that a little bit back to Yanko, who's recently registered with ECSA. Are you aware of the registration paths with ECSA in terms of that, or are you not?
I am aware.
You are aware.
Yes.
Okay. Let me go back to you now in terms of, you just said something that provoked my thinking in line with the rewards. Whose problem is that? Who must be rewarding the engineers?
I would say it's the company itself. As the engineer itself is giving back to the company, giving them financial stability as well as jobs.
Okay.
It allows the company to leverage on the engineer to get further tenders and further opportunities.
Okay. Now, I'm going to turn back now to Yanko, who's recently registered. When you look back as to their experiences where they are, at where Megan was, will you be able to could have seen the future like that you one day get registered?
No. I wouldn't have seen it that way, because when I look back at when I was in varsity, I think we didn't think much of ECSA. I mean, I only discovered the engineering council once I got into industry. And you only, once in industry, you learn that the council is there, it accredits institutions. When you are in an institution, it seems the voluntary associations, like especially the ones for your discipline, like for us, SAICI seems to be the most dominant, because that's what the lecturers will tell you about. And it's only when you get into industry, you start realizing that there's actually a consulting and a construction side of things. So I wouldn't have predicted where my path was going to go. I mean, when I was studying, I thought when I'd graduate, I'd actually be on construction, because that's what we think civil engineering is. And it's only when I got into industry, I realized there's a design side, and it's like, oh yeah, those designs that are being implemented, or that structure has to come from somewhere.
Yeah. Okay.
So I wouldn't have predicted that my path would have gone this way when I was still in varsity.
Now I'm going to put a hypothetical question to the three of you, because now I wanted to unlock that, and it came from somebody who's recently registered. Is ECSA visible enough to the industry in engineering?
The student chapter at UP is quite active. So we are aware of ECSA, you are aware of the steps you have to take.
Okay.
I must say our lecturers also makes us aware of professional registration and the path that you will have to take to get there.
Malcolm,
Yes.
do you share the same sentiment?
Yes, I do. As one of the founding members of the ECSA student chapter that started at UJ,
Okay.
I do believe so. We try to promote the engineering council itself. And then this platform, the student chapter itself, allows students to gain experience and put their knowledge to work, to develop their skills further and create a system of work integrated learning.
Okay, wonderful. Now, Yanko, to you, at which stage did you come aware of the Engineering Council of South Africa?
Okay, I was fortunate that the first company I worked for was run by Malani Padiachi, MPA, which is now MPA Mott. So I was very fortunate that Malani pushed professional registration, and they had a program in place. So when I got into industry, it's almost like from the beginning, we were made aware that at the end of the day, this is the goal. We have a system in place. We are going to give you or get you involved in the projects that will enable you to register. Because at the end of the day, it is a good thing that you must be registered.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I got into industry, that's when I found out.
Okay. If it wasn't for the student chapter and the company where you worked, how would you have known about ECSA and the Engineering Council of South Africa at the beginning? Do you think, is there a gap that maybe the Engineering Council of South Africa is not doing to make the youth or the students or the graduates to be aware of it?
I think we were fortunate enough that the chapter was already established.
Okay.
Which I think you might not have had when you were studying.
Yeah.
But me as a first year, I didn't know at all. So I was made aware only when I started studying.
Okay. Now, let me put another hypothetical question. I'm going to try to do a comparison. You all know about the Health Profession Council of South Africa, where the medical doctors register. In there, the students become they become student doctors when they study, they get registered. Do you think something like that will work if the Engineering Council of South Africa adopt that mode to attract you as a student already, not to wait for you to get into industry and you register as a candidate?
I think it might work.
I do believe so as well.
When you are still a graduate or a student, at which stage should you be aware of the regulatory body that is regulating your profession?
Maybe if I can come in. I mean, ECSA is a regulating entity, and you're relying on the voluntary associations to push certain agendas, in terms of preserving the profession. So I think that relationship also maybe between the voluntary associations could be further strengthened, because I think I wasn't fortunate when I graduated to have been exposed. But I think now, I was actually telling Malcolm outside that I'm doing quite a lot of work with the student chapters. So most of the students, because we are now going into the industry and we're holding talks about professional registration, most of them, when they're coming out, they are now aware of it. So I think it just depends on the timing. I think when I graduated, being a professional was not a big thing, but maybe having an MBA was a big thing. So if it's the associations maybe also push it, or the relationship between ECSA and the voluntary associations is strengthened, I think that will help, so that we don't blur lines, because at the end of the day, the various associations also have to focus on the discipline-specific entity. So I mean, as much as you're discipline-specific, promote the fact that yes, you are a civil engineer, but at the end of the day, you need to register professionally in order to practice, you know. So I think just strengthening that thing and having the voluntary associations also pushing the whole registration thing will help get students more knowledgeable, which is happening now, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just to add to
Yes.
that, I do agree with that, since that the voluntary associations have extremely high visibility within universities now. They're pushing student chapters within every university, all of the voluntary associations.
And
Okay.
collaborations are key, because having been in industry for a while, sorry to cut you there, I did a lot of work with the Consulting Engineers of South Africa. And what I picked up is that student chapters, voluntary associations like SciC, SciE, those are discipline specific. They have a very strong student presence, whereas entities like CISA have a very strong young graduates presence. So if you collaborate, the CISA can tap into the student space, while SciC, SciE, SciMix can tap into the industry space. So collaborations, I think, is what is very key to make sure that people are aware of the changes that are happening in the industry.
Oh, super. So I hope you might not be aware, but the Engineering Profession Act of 2000, Act number 46, also caters that it mandates ECSA to recognize the voluntary associations, to work with them. So you spoke about collaboration, Yanko. So in that collaboration, I'm trying to get the link. The voluntary associations, although they are recognized by ECSA, up to which point should ECSA also come into the play and take the lead?
Well, I think for me, obviously we got some lectures on it, and we had a whole course on how the CPD points and all of that would work. And it's definitely something that I'm looking to do after I graduate now, is I want to get my professional engineering. But to regards with voluntary associations like SciC, it's going to be difficult. I don't know how you would incorporate ECSA with that.
So there's still more that needs to be done. Malcolm, I'm looking at you in terms of that you are now in the industry.
Yes.
Now, how are you mapping up your professional registration moving forward?
I have the same privilege that Yanko has, where there is a program within my company itself. So they do assist with our registration. So with regards to other industries that don't have that, I do believe that ECSA does have the mentor program that does allow for the assistance of those who don't have that mentorship or that program itself. So within that, I believe that could be pushed harder in terms of giving graduates more opportunities to establish themselves as a professional.
Okay, wonderful. Yanko, coming back to you, that now you've gone through the journey and saw that. How could this system be improved or be enhanced? You know, we spoke about the voluntary association, the student chapter, the lecturers at the University of Pretoria who are taking charge, same as at the University of Johannesburg. But the big elephant in the room where everything ends is the Engineering Council of South Africa. I'm not getting them being part of the discussion. How can that be brought closer to be visible, to inspire the youth? Yes.
I think, as I mentioned, collaborations are very key. So I think for me, it's maybe ECSA being more involved with the voluntary associations. Yes, you recognize them, but actually, I don't know whether it can have discussions with them and try to be involved in some of their activities or programs, just so that visibility of ECSA is there, but people also understand, as you mentioned, that you recognize them and you can't get to registering without the voluntary associations. So if people can see the collaboration at grassroots levels, then you kind of like have that mindset that, okay, clearly opportunities are boundless, you know, whether I start from here, I can still be able to end there. So I think right now the problem is that ECSA, from a visibility perspective, I think even from the voluntary associations, you are not as visible there. Hence, maybe for some people like myself in 2011, we didn't really know much about ECSA unless you were a student who went into industry and had a mentor who told you about such things, you know. So I think it's just strengthening that relationship with the voluntary associations and just participating in some of their initiatives as well. Because we don't need to reinvent the wheel. As I said to you earlier, CISA has a strong graduate presence, young professionals, let me say young professionals presence. SAICI has a strong student chapter presence. And one of the things that we worked towards when I was assisting with the CISA YPF was to collaborate so that we could tap into the students and allow the students to tap into the young professionals. So some mentorship relationships, for example, are born from these type of collaborations. So that's where also ECSA can come in, where if SAICI is hosting an event, you say we can bring in a professional to talk about the whole getting registered, you know, path, or CPD, the importance of attending courses that give you CPD points, or how CPD comes in. What's the difference between CPD and CPI? Because there's a difference as well. When before you register, it's not CPD. So some people don't even know that, you know. So I think it's getting involved at that level. Yeah.
Yes, Malcolm.
Yes.
What role does ECSA play then in a registered person's life?
Yes. Okay, ECSA plays the role of regulating your experiences as well as what you've learned in industry. And then they also regulate you based on your continuous professional development.
Okay. Yanku, you're registered. Do you think that is it really necessary to have a regulatory body in the engineering profession like ECSA?
I think we do. We actually need one. Because you mentioned at the beginning that medical students have this body where they can go and be student doctors.
Let's come back to our engineering profession. Somebody who's doing maintenance, for example, something that has been designed already, should that person be registered? My point is going to, should everybody who's in the engineering profession be registered?
I think in a way they should be. Because I think if you think about a bridge, or take a bridge as an example, and you as an engineer doing maintenance on the bridge, you must still be aware of certain things that can go wrong, rusting or cables broken. You must take that responsibility that if you don't fix this correctly, then again the bridge might fall, kill someone.
Yeah, Megan, but what will be the thing that will not be done correct in fixing a rust, you know, scrubbing it off, repainting? The design is done already.
But I think in some cases there's more to be done.
Okay.
So
in some cases, not all cases.
No.
Most cases.
Or most cases. Yeah. Okay. Or should it be about the work that is being done, that the person must be registered for doing that work?
I think that is important.
Which one? Everybody, or the work that should be done?
You are registered in the field that you are working in.
Yes.
That is very important.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it the work that needs, for example, the work of a designer and a maintainer and a contractor. So the work that is there, only people who do the design must be registered. The one who does maintenance,
No, because it could be an engineer also doing maintenance, just that you landed in that space.
Yes.
And like when you mentioned, from the design perspective, maybe something wasn't done right at construction. You shouldn't be having rust on a certain structure. Maybe there's a gap where water is coming in. Now you have to redesign that thing. Maybe the maintenance person, they might just be there in the maintenance space, but they are more than competent to do designing work.
Yeah,
so now you want them to say, hey, it's a difficult one, but I mean, you could be an engineer just in that space, but not necessarily that you don't have the qualification that gives you that thing. I think as long as you have the qualification and you are acting within the engineering space, you know, you should be regulated somehow.
Also, to add to that, I do believe a registered person could take a systematic approach to the system of maintenance. So they could understand what a certain aspect of a component will affect the whole system. so they can understand doing maintenance on this one bolt will affect the whole column, let's say.
Okay,
Or if you
interesting.
take roads, for example, the person might know if we fix this road in this way now, it will prevent
But they don't
potholes
account
from.
for layer works.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's to just make sure that people give a quality thing, because
Mm.
if no one is going to, because if something goes wrong, people need answers.
Yes.
Someone must be held accountable. Who's
Yes.
that person? If we are all not registered, I can come and say, no, but I was not qualified to do this
Exactly.
thing. So having gone through the ECSA process, if anything goes wrong, I'm saying I did the due diligence. I checked,
Yes.
I did my checks. I made sure that 1, 2, 3, 4 was in place. So if I erred, if I made an error somewhere, it's on me. I can't run away from it, because I think that's what has been lacking
Okay.
a bit, that some things happen. For example, the Santon Bridge that collapsed.
Yes.
Lives were lost. At the end of the day, when the life is lost, that family wants answers. Who
Yes.
must respond?
Someone needs
Someone needs to take responsibility. At the end of the day, it's about taking the responsibility, you know.
But now coming back to what you said, I hear you that you say everybody, because there might be. Now, are you saying those that are doing maintenance will now be the fixers of the mistakes of the designers? Then you force them to get registered.
It's not necessarily the mistakes of the designers. It might be just general maintenance that needs to be done. And then at least they can have the perspective of and the knowledge to know how to fix something and take responsibility for what they are fixing.
How do you see that should be everybody all be registered for a certain work? I'll give you an example with mechanical engineering. They design a car, yes. Somebody who's doing the door handles, installing them on the car that is designed, should that person be registered, for example? But yes, the designer of that engine, the table, V6, whatever that it is, I'll think otherwise. Somebody who's going to fix who's going to install the lights, working there in part of the mechanical engineering team, might be a mechanical engineering technician or an engineering technologist or an engineer. Should that person be registered?
I think it's very important to understand the scale of the maintenance. Because yes, as an engineer, you have to be registered. However, you have technicians and artisans that also need to be registered for that specific item of the maintenance. In that aspect, I do believe that we're all in agreement that depending on the scale and the focus of the maintenance, we all need to be registered.
Let me hear from you that in terms of, do you see the engineering profession being protected?
No.
Does it have processes that are in order? Is it streamlined? Are you proud of not what you've studied, but the profession itself, where we find ourselves in?
Well, I just want to go work, and I think it's great working as an engineer and being able to build something like a bridge or a dam wall. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. And 10, 20 years time, you drive past that and you can say that I was part of this structure. So for me, that's what I see at the moment.
Do you see the future when you still look through that crystal ball and say, hey, I can see the future through this from where I am. This profession is glamorous, is well regulated, is well streamlined. What do you see through the crystal ball?
Going to the profession itself, I do believe it has place to grow because it allows you to create as a human being, to create structures, to create mechanical devices. It will grow it allows the human race to grow, and it's growing through engineering. Going to the second part of your question, I do believe that ECSA can streamline the process further to allow professionals to move forward a bit easier.
What else what else apart from creating structures? What is so inspiring about it?
It allows for you as a human being to affect many people, be it one person or many.
Okay. Engineering Council of South Africa is there, and it might maybe be lack of knowledge about it, and we'll touch to that. And that's why I started at the very beginning to find out as to how far do you know. You spoke about registration. What else do you know that the Engineering Council of South Africa is doing? And we're on the regulation part now.
Well, for me, it will ensure that you as a professional engineer is getting your CPD points per year, making sure that you are on track with what is new and what you need to know currently. If, let's say, standards change, you must be aware of that and you must design according to that. So just keeping everybody in track and guiding them in the correct path.
Okay. Thank you so much. Miguel. Malcolm?
I believe that the ECSA does regulate the courses that universities provide. So
okay.
it does give recognition that a course does comply with their regulations and to their mandate. And this does allow that university or college or whatever it may be, that it is regulated within the Washington Accord itself.
Okay, wonderful. So good. So let me leave it from Yanko to your side. What do you else know that ECSA does outside the registration? It touched on the accreditation. It is the accreditation of the programs at the universities. What else does it do?
I think the biggest things that I'm aware of that ECSA does, it's mainly in the accreditation of the material at grassroots levels, and then regulating what we like, the whole practice of engineering, and just making sure that we safeguard the profession. Or that's the aim of the entity. Hence, pushing for people to get registered. Those are the main things that I'm aware of that ECSA does. I'm slowly learning about the other things
All right. That's
that
fine.
you are doing.
Yes. Yeah. The whole idea about this, we are nearly getting to the end, was to find out as to how far does the youth, being a student, recently graduated, recently registered, know about. Let me first start with you as a recently graduated Bachelor of Engineering in Civil Engineering student, Master in Civil Engineering student, now a PhD candidate. From the discussion that we've had, did it bring anything to you as a youth that look forward to to talk with pride about the engineering profession?
Definitely.
In what way?
It's great. I think it's great that they want to enforce the registration process for all engineers. And it's nice to actually meet someone that's now a professional engineer and went through the process recently. I think it's awesome that you did that.
Okay. Malcolm, what do you see forward like now with what we've discussed?
I think one aspect I would like us, or that we didn't cover, is the fact that the opportunities that graduate engineers are struggling with in terms of finding jobs, and as well as other industries poaching engineers, such as the banking sector. I would maybe bring it up to you guys to get your opinions on that.
Thank you very much for coming on board and thanks for participating, Megan, Malcolm, and Yanko. I'm John Smuloisane, so we wrap it up. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.